Welcome back, Wolfpack, for our weekly news recap from Behind Enemy Lines on YouTube, where the speech is not free and the truth is demonetized. One second. And with me, of course, is my co-host, Fox Travis. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Fantastic. I'm ready for a great show. We got some really good topics today. And
I'm
with us,
excited for tonight's show. This is gonna be great.
I'm pretty excited. Our guests with us today are the good doctor, Director Arcater. How you doing?
Greetings. So far, so good.
And James from the YouTube channel Lore Reloaded. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, everybody?
Well, I think they're all here to watch the news. But first, I want to thank our sponsors, the people who make this show happen. Thank you very much for everyone who donates to our channel monetarily, including Ori Main, Nathan, Cameron, Tetris Freak, Slowpoke, Mr. Foxlot, Timberwolf, Golem, Lone Fury, Pablo Gomez, Strong Arm, Hellraiser Elon, Kalet, and Dacris. It's very much appreciated. I want to give a little reminder that we have two raffles currently going on. The first raffle is the Dreamkeepers comic. So I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but there's a link below to the Dreamkeepers store if you want to see what the comics are. They're really good, and we are raffling off a digital version of that, as well as we are raffling off this mouse pad. That is a mouse pad.
Yeah, sure it is.
Ergonomic mouse pad. We have
Ergonomic.
We have two of these
Stain resistant.
I doubt it.
It's
You
not.
think that'd be an innate feature of it? That was the first image I came. I joined this chat, and the first thing I see is that waifu. By the way, that was an interesting introduction to the show.
Well,
Welcome to Direwolf Media.
we have an audience that has needs, and that is water wicking. Just so you know.
Moving on.
Moving on. All right. So that's what the raffle is. Every $2 that's donated through Streamlabs does give you a ticket, and we keep track of all the names. You get one name in the raffle for every $2. So keep that in mind. Thank you very much for all you guys' support. And also, if you wouldn't mind helping us out, since YouTube doesn't likes to derank us, please share out the content if you enjoy it. In the
Yes,
meantime,
we really appreciate that. And I think you, I don't know. Did you say where they could enter the raffle at? Is it Streamlabs? You show that out?
Well, yes, the Streamlabs link is below. It's the first link in the description of all of our social medias and places we are currently broadcasting. And you also can do the whole lemons or bits if you want, depending on what platform you're viewing us on right now.
We still have not gotten a Ninja Jet. I'd love to see a Ninja Jet. One helps out.
Yeah, Ninjets are pretty awesome. In the meantime, let's get started with our first story.
All right. This is an interesting story. It's both exciting and horrifying at the same time. Jeffrey Epstein, as you may have heard, is dead. I guess good riddance to him. The big breaking news today, the 10th of August, 2019, to no one's surprise, is that 66-year-old Jeffrey Epstein, who was in a New York State prison awaiting trial for sex trafficking of children for the enjoyment of billionaire elites, has committed, quote-unquote, suicide. Sure.
Yeah, suicide. Everyone knew this was coming. We called it. You called it. Twitter called it. Mainstream media called it. Intellectual dark web called it. Everyone called it. The idea that Epstein would die before making it to court was the very definition of a meme.
I'm sure even The Simpsons called it. Somebody should rewatch that. I bet you it's in there somewhere. The official story is that Epstein died of an apparent, quote-unquote, suicide. However, there are some very suspicious circumstances that call the story into question. For starters, Epstein has been on suicide watch since the 23rd of July, when he had previously tried to hang himself, or potentially had somebody else try to hang himself for him.
He was found in the fetal position with his roommate standing over him.
I'm going to be completely unsurprised if this turns out that he committed suicide with 2 shots to the head, that kind of thing.
Yeah, from the back.
In his cell with no access to guns.
For a suicidal man, it seems kind of odd that he would claim that someone tried to kill him the previous time. It's not something you really object to when you're looking to croak.
I
I don't think he claimed that somebody tried to kill him. He said
it's
he
been
tried to kill
reported.
himself.
Again,
Oh, really?
the Heavy.com article, a reporter said that he had complained to authorities that someone tried to kill him on the previous attempted suicide.
Wow, that calls us into question even more then.
Yeah, you think that'd be like headline news, but people don't seem to talk about that too much. I'm going to double verify that, but if that's true, holy cow!
Heavy.com
Do they not
article.
have solitary? Do they not have solitary confinement anymore? Anyway, so he's been on suicide watch for a while. This means, and by suicide we mean Clinton assassination watch. No, we don't. That was just me. That's not the opinion of Direwolf Media. This means that he should have had everything in his cell that could have been used to choke himself removed, and he should have been under 24-hour surveillance. So we are to believe that Epstein was able to hang himself in a room with nothing to hang himself with, while he is constantly being monitored by officers whose job it was to prevent himself from harming himself.
I mean, to be fair, it's a pretty hard job, though. I mean, you got one guy that you have to check on every 30 minutes or so. Who has the time for that, really? Keeping him by himself with not access to nobody else. I mean,
they're should be making at least $15 an hour doing that now. It's New York, so
they get paid a lot more than $15 an hour to do that. Actually, they get paid pretty well.
Well, they got paid more than that to not do it in this case.
Yeah, no, they made their money tonight, babies, or yesterday, whenever it occurred. They earned.
Well, I got a solution to that. If that's true, I'll bring that up at the end of the story, though. I'll save my ideas for retribution. That's Dyer's part.
So, keep in mind that the jail knows this person is very important to possibly the most politically important court case this generation. There is only two conclusions. Either the jail officers were criminally negligent, simply were not watching him, or he wasn't on suicide watch, or Epstein was, at best, allowed to kill himself, or at worst, was killed. Keep in mind that strangulation does not happen very fast. For you to die from strangulation to suffocation, it takes at least 6 minutes for the brain to start dying. And
now to clarify that, though, because just for like general suicide PSA awareness, you can pass out very quickly, but it takes a while for you to die. But that's one of the problems with people who do commit or play around with choking stuff is they'll pass out and then they're unable to get themselves out of a position where it clears their airway. So just for your guys' sake, you can pass out very quickly, but it takes a while to die.
Oh, yeah, I'm not even talking about passing out. I'm talking about they being unable to resuscitate him. Your brain starts dying after you've already passed out long before this point. No one holds their breath for 6 minutes, obviously. But you start having irreparable brain damage around 6. Usually people can't be resuscitated past 10 minutes of being deprived of oxygen. And keep in mind, this is not people believe when someone's being choked, that it's first fast, which is wrong, and also that it's they go still afterwards. Once you have choked to the point where you've passed out, your body starts twitching violently. There's no way someone would not notice someone being choked.
Yeah, that's true. I have seen that before. People go into like almost a seizure, basically.
Yeah, so
it's a mystery.
The point is, because of the practicality of what it takes to strangle someone, which is also not very easy with the average person's hands, like if someone's being attacked. They had to have been not watching him for a long period of time, is my point.
Yes. Exactly. Also, in a case of miraculous coincidence, it was reported that the exact moment that Epstein decided to off himself, or was offed, the CCTV being used to monitor him suffered a malfunction. So apparently Epstein somehow knew the exact moment that the cameras were turned off.
Not likely. That is something that's been reported, unable to verify it, but if that's the case, this really makes the story even less believable.
Yes.
And whether it's working or not, it seems hard to believe that he wouldn't have been on closed circuit.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Most you would think that he'd be a kind of a high value prisoner that they would be at least keeping track of. And the officers apparently did not think to send someone down to watch his cell for long enough that he was able to kill himself. Basically if it was that the CCTVs went down, then presumably they would have sent down officers to put like actual eyes on him while they got the cameras back up. But that didn't happen either.
I think so. Definitely. So which would be pretty negligent to suffocate. It'd be pretty negligent to suffocate beyond the ability to be resuscitated. It takes. So I already covered that part. Sorry. Go on. What paragraph are you on?
I'll just read the next one. Cool. His suicide. Oh, now you've highlighted it. His suicide also suspiciously came one day, and it was. By one day, we really mean like 7 hours, like just barely over the course of a day. Like it was not long, because he did this, I believe, at 6:30 Eastern this morning, and this 2,000-page data dump came out last evening, I believe. It was 2,000 pages of documents showing. Regarding many of his billionaire clientele that had allegedly paid him for providing children to have sex with. Those were released. These documents came from a now settled defamation lawsuit from one of Epstein's alleged victims of sex slavery, who had testified about the crimes of many of Epstein's billionaire friends. And I believe she named names, and that there was more names to be named outside of those documents.
Yep. Let's be clear. It is no conspiracy to say that Epstein's death, at the very least, necessitated the criminal negligence by the police officers.
Is it gross negligence or criminal carelessness? I don't remember.
Criminal negligence.
Is this the Comey standard? No, nor is it conspiratorial to say that many of the very wealthy and well-connected people, including the Clintons, hashtag Clinton body count, had a lot to gain from Epstein's death. And by gain, we mean not lose. And by lose, we mean everything. Their reputation, their freedom, their money. And, I mean, you can't just get away with, having a sex traffic island of children.
There is multiple people in the Democrat Party who are currently still in office that are on the list of Epstein's clients that could be implicated in these lawsuits had it gone through. So they had the Democrat Party as a whole had a lot to lose. It may be a conspiracy theory that those billionaire elites may have arranged for the death of Epstein, but that doesn't mean it's false just because it's a conspiracy theory. It's simply not proven. There is enough evidence now that warrants an investigation, and Epstein's victim who planned on testifying should be given immediate protection, so they don't end up suiciding themselves as well.
And hopefully the FBI is sick of looking like complete incompetence and will prevent any further suicidings.
That's a lovely wish you have there, Arcader.
I'm an optimist.
I for one,
not very convincing one, but I try.
Yeah, I for one am a little skeptical of the FBI. The FBI that has now come, actually earlier this week, came to light that they provably destroyed evidence that would have led to Hillary's indictment with her email server. I'm a little concerned that same organization that was protecting the Clintons one time, that they will faithfully execute an investigation of a guy who also could have brought down the Clintons. I'm a little skeptical of that.
To be more specific, the FBI leadership authorized Clinton's people to destroy the evidence. Like, yeah, go ahead, you can destroy it. No problem. We don't. What?
I'm just have my fingers crossed that there is some competence in there who are sick of this shit too.
Okay. Even if they were to say, okay, to protect the secret information, we must destroy it. They would destroy it in the way you usually destroy secret information, which is, in the case of my job, we have a pulverizer that turns paper into dust. Anytime we have to get rid of a secret document, it has to be destroyed in a very specific way, and it has to have witnesses signing that they destroyed it on a certain date in a certain way, and that document saying that the documents were destroyed is saved for in case there's a FOIA request later on, right?
Wait, you don't just put it on Hillary's email server?
You don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I was gonna say. I thought you first gave it to the Russians and let them do it, and then take care.
Wait, don't you wipe it with a cloth dyer?
And at no point is BleachBit and a hammer in the process of getting rid of secret information. At no point. And why would they authorize this without first looking at what information was on there so they can know what has been released? Here's why. So if I, for instance, were to accidentally release somehow because of my own negligence the encryption code for military radios, these codes are good for a certain period of time. But if I were to have released it in a way that it could have been taken by adversaries, what they do immediately, they want to know what I released, right? Because then they have to go back and change the encryption codes. If they don't know what was released, they don't know what to change. There's no logical reason for them to not want to know what had been released and then to authorize them to destroy it in a non-standard way, right? That is insane. Whoever authorized that should not only be without a job in the FBI, they should be in jail.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Laura, for giving us a follow. We appreciate that. Thank you for the lemon, Aruka and Tetris Freak. And to pick up on what Dyer was saying, we went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but our whole point in that was, which is a story that we're not covering this week. We might cover it next week in more detail. But basically, earlier this week, it was the FBI released. There was an investigation into the Hillary investigation. It was shown that basically all the conspiracy theories about the FBI protecting her, those are all provably true now. It's all like factual evidence. And so all the stuff that Dyer was talking about was why would they just be allowed to do that? Why would you let the FBI do that? It just doesn't bode well for them being very trustworthy in handling cases with high profile political entities, especially the Clintons. And linking it back to this story, as I was saying, I, again, am a little skeptical that they're going to be able to faithfully execute an investigation into somebody who has a bunch of dirt on high-value political figures once again, because they have shown themselves over and over and over again that they are not capable of doing good investigations when there's high-profile political figures involved.
Yep.
Sadly, very sad. I don't take any glee in saying that. That's very tragic that is what we've been reduced to.
Well, again, I hope things can improve. I don't count on it. I don't necessarily believe it, but I hope.
We got a $2 donation from Slowpoke Garcia saying that for the Foxman's... damn it. 1 second.
Damn it, Slowpoke.
For the Foxman's comment about passing out, translation, practice safe bondage.
That is true.
That is true. Also from Timberwolf, 14 minutes ago, thank you for give me waifu. I will definitely give you 5 tickets towards that waifu. All right, you're up, Dark Darketer.
Okay. Domino's website may destroy the internet. Often when politicians create laws they don't consider the unintended consequences of, or how those laws will be applied, well, to some extent this is due to technology changing over time and creating situations they could not have predicted, causing the law to be interpreted ways that it was never meant to be. This is exactly what happened when a court recently ruled that the Americans with Disability Act, ADA, meant that the entire internet needed to be accessible to the blind.
The problem is that the Americans with Disability Act, the ADA, says that companies must provide equal opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency for such individuals are the nation's goals. This means that any company providing a public service must make their service equally accessible to everyone, no matter their disability. The company could be held criminally liable for discrimination, even if their service is not equally accessible unintentionally.
The court ruled that Domino's Pizza discriminated against blind people because blind people were not able to use their website to order pizza. It didn't matter to the court that a blind person could still order using their phone. It didn't matter that a blind person is able to buy specialized accessibility devices to programs that create auditory or tactile interfaces allowing them to use any website. The court ruled that Domino's website needed to have a built-in feature for the blind, somehow.
This ruling sets a horrible precedent that could break the internet, and not in the cute way that a teacup pig with rain boots would. This means that every company that has a website or any kind of online service needs to modify it in a way that it would be able to be used by the blind. A mainly visual medium needs to be modified to be used by those who cannot see. That's what the law says. The current ruling says. The problem with this case is how the court defined the service being provided by Domino's. They have determined that Domino's website is the service they provide. Domino's service that the plaintiff is demanding equal access to is not a website. It's their freaking pizza. If the current ruling is allowed to stand, even then we will have to we'll have the nonsensical ruling that all of the internet, a visual medium, must conform to the visually impaired, working from the website side alone with no control over the device the user chooses to access the website with. Wouldn't just be very expensive, it would be likely impossible.
It would make far more sense for the user to purchase existing devices that compensate for the disability. A business is required to provide a ramp to make reasonable accommodations for people who can't walk, but they are not required to provide people with wheelchairs. There are plenty of programs, like on-screen narrators or other devices, like dynamic braille tablets, which are readily available and often can be purchased with medical insurance the same way a wheelchair can be.
The public service that is being provided is the pickup and delivery of pizza. This means that a disabled person would need reasonable accommodations to permit them to do the following. Order a pizza. There are other methods that they can use that are not the website. Just like how you can have stairs and a ramp, you can maintain a website and a phone. The ability to access the building is another one of the things they need to have access to, and so they can pick up the pizza. And they also need the ability to have pizzas delivered within the area determined by the store. And all those things, the being able to order pizza, the ability to access the building, and the ability to have a pizza delivered to them are all available to someone who's blind. The only difference is that they cannot use a website, but they are still given an alternate method. Just like you don't say that someone with a wheelchair needs to be able to use stairs. Right?
It's that law says equal accessibility, correct? Accessibility, not equal usability. That seems to be a distinction there.
Yes.
If we're going this route, isn't radio terribly ableist?
Oh my god.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
all those radio competitions that you're supposed to listen for, how are the deaf supposed to compete?
Yeah, apparently they can't. That's pretty.
Or people who don't understand numbers or don't know how to use numbers to call in and such. So they should probably, radio stations should probably provide exact ways to everybody who could ever listen, like with just a button they can push to get a hold of them.
So what if you are a really slow runner? You're just not as fast as someone else. Does it mean that make up for that as well? What if you're too dumb? Should they give you a higher score just so you can be equally as smart as someone else?
I think I want to go the other way with this. I think that Domino's, they're hiding brain interface technology, and they can regenerate optic nerves. I think that they have that technology, and they've been hiding it just to screw over blind people, and I don't want to let that stand. I think we need to sue them to the fullest extent of the law until they release that amazing technology.
So what you're saying is
that definitely exists.
The cure for blindness
is Domino's
the
pizza.
U.S. government is going to force Domino's to either release it or develop the cure for blindness. Otherwise, they can be held criminally liable.
Dyer, that's how human rights work, is that you force companies to make technologies that don't exist. Are you not understanding that?
Here's the interesting thing. Because I was looking into that a little bit, because on its face, like you said, it sounds absolutely ridiculous. Just listening to, of course, blind people can't access websites generally. One of the things I was reading though was it doesn't say this for Domino's, but another company, Winn-Dixie, I guess, got sued because software that was designed to read websites could not read Winn-Dixie's website. And so I wonder if maybe they're trying to say that on Domino's, that Domino's website is not readable by software that exists right now. You know?
as far as the source article for Domino's, that doesn't seem to be the case. That wasn't mentioned at all in any of the court documents or the article provided.
Sure. Okay. I mean, maybe it's not. I try to look. It just amazes me because sometimes it's just so stupid that you would think maybe there's more to it. It's ridiculous.
And so that's interesting. So when Dyer and I were discussing this, we kept trying to equate it to the wheelchair issue because that's a very easily understood and something you can grasp a hold of and understand from the perspective of what the ADA was really meant to do. So what you just said, you were talking about one of those accessibility programs that's able to probably narrate websites or come up with some kind of tactile interface for them. So that would be your ramp equivalent. So let's say Domino's at one of their buildings, they hired a company they contract a company to put a ramp in, and they made a ramp that was wide enough for most wheelchairs, right? And so you've got some guy that rolls up and he's got, he can't use his legs, but he decides that he wants to drive, like one of those big 6-wheel gators up, like one of those, you know what I'm talking about, Dyer. But that's too big for the ramp, and so it's not necessarily the Domino's fault. Like they made it accessible to a certain type of device, but the guy was trying to use a device that doesn't work. So either he needs to work with a different device and in your case, use a different program perhaps, or I really don't think it's on Domino's to figure out how to make the ramp accessible to every single kind of vehicle, but they make it accessible to the types of vehicles that they would reasonably anticipate to approach their stores. So,
And they offer alternatives. I'm not trying to defend the guy or anything like that. I'm just saying, it's just I can't read the website and I'm blind. Give me money for it. It's just so ludicrous.
Yeah.
Yes, it's clearly frivolous.
Yeah. So
anybody can see that.
Yeah. Funny. It's funny. Funny. So you use that scenario, right, of having the width of the wheelchair ramp. There's actually it's federal law of what those ramps, what the dimensions of those ramps are supposed to be, for how wide they need to be. So when they build them to the required specs by law. Now there are wheelchairs that are like those track wheelchairs that are bigger than those ramps. So you're right. I mean, they would have followed the law. In this case,
you bring up an interesting.
The government.
You bring up an interesting point. Yeah, you bring up an interesting point then that there's around the specific type of ADA requirement of the wheelchair ramp, there's specific building codes for that. So maybe there's a solution here where they order some kind of there's some kind of law that mandates certain specifications for websites. Maybe every website needs to have these 50 API handles for accessibility devices, and anybody who makes accessibility programs needs to be able to read those 50 or 100 or however many it needs to be the handles that the website would have to interface with those devices. So maybe there is some room for some legislation here, but clearly that's not what this guy's going for. If that's what he wanted, he would be part of an advocacy group. He'd be working with programmers trying to figure stuff out. He maybe could even start a company out of it. But no, he wants money from Domino's because reasons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. A similar law does to the width of the ramps doesn't exist for the websites. So they're trying to punish Domino's for government regulations that don't exist. Right?
This is like so anti-American. I mean, the classic Americano is you see a need and then you entrepreneurship and fill that gap in the market. And he sees a gap in the market and is like, I'm gonna sue. Like what a jerk.
Yeah. Okay. Next story. Unless you guys got any closing shots. Nope. Okay.
I just don't see how he has a case.
He does have a case, but it's also was only ruled on by the lower court, so it's going to go to a higher court and may very likely get overturned.
I know. I was making a blindness pun.
Oh, sorry.
Do you have a little sound effect queued up?
Oh, 1 second. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, 1 second. And
all right. Trump blames video games for social media mass shootings and social media for mass shootings.
All right. I played it.
Oh, okay. Here at Direwolf Media, we often praise Trump for the many things we feel he has done right. However, many times Trump has said or done something we disagree with, and we do not hesitate to say when he is wrong. That's because we support policies based on principles and facts, not based on tribalism or personalities. So following the shootings in Dayton and El Paso, when Trump addressed the nation and condemned all kinds of racism and political violence, we praised him. However, in that same speech, Trump partially blamed mass shootings and gun violence on video games, and he called for red flag laws. In both cases, Trump is completely wrong.
A dated statement so old you can hear the echo as it comes from, what was it, 5 decades ago?
McCarthy era that you're looking for.
Video games are drinking to kill us! If this was true in the slightest, society would have ended previous to the release of the last Doom game.
It would have been true to his title.
Indeed.
Let's start with the tired false narrative that video game violence causes gun violence. There have been a multitude, I'm talking about a multitude of studies that have been conducted since the McCarthy era that have debunked, since the Pong era, that have debunked the idea of video games, including the most violent video games causing gun violence. These studies actually go a step further and show that violent video games gave people with aggressive tendencies a healthy and safe way to work out their aggression without harming themselves or others. I could bore you by going through each of the many studies one at a time and showing you their findings, but instead, I think this graph right here is worth 1,000 words. It's your turn, sir.
In this graph shows that America is only the third highest in sales of video games behind Japan and South Korea, but we have more gun violence than all of the countries on the list combined, even when adjusted for population. The main factor that contributes to gun violence is actually a cultural problem, but there is no link between gun violence and violent video games.
The second thing that Trump got wrong was calling for red flag laws that are currently being proposed by both Republicans and Democrats in Congress. Red flag laws would, in general, because they're a category of laws, allow a judge to order the confiscation of a person's firearms based on the petition from a family member or law enforcement agencies claiming that the person is a danger to others or themselves. These laws are straight up unconstitutional for 2 reasons. First, allowing a person to have one of their rights denied to them based on unproven allegations without due process. That's the first reason why it's unconstitutional. The person being stripped of the rights does not get to face their accuser in court. They do not get to argue their case. Second, they are stripped of their rights when they have not been found guilty of a crime.
I think we got something in the Constitution that talks about that. But currently, 17 states already have some form of red flag laws, including Democrat strongholds like California and New York. These laws have done nothing to stop gun violence. Mr. Trump, we don't need to be more like these states. We need better solutions.
Absolutely. In my opinion, Trump and many Republicans like Solid Snake Dan Crenshaw would be making a huge mistake if they adopted the Democrats' well-established version of red flag laws. And if you are using red flag laws meaning something else, I would avoid using that phrase because it's already very loaded, meaning as there already are red flag laws on the books that people are going to be referencing to. And they need to, if they are going to pushing these kinds of laws, they need to reverse course now because it's going to hurt the Republicans and Trump's chances. Now, Dan Crenshaw, who received a lot of backlash for supporting Trump's call to discuss and pass red flag laws, has since clarified, and he does not support, according to him, the red flag laws that are currently being proposed by Democrats. But I'm going to let him say it in his own words, all right? I think we should hear what he has to say on the topic. 1 second, it's loading.
President Trump, wow, what a week. So earlier this week, President Trump indicated his support for something called red flag laws. I stated on Twitter that maybe we should consider them at the state level. Maybe we should have a conversation about it, and it should be a conversation. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. What came out of it instead was hate-filled comments, lots of emotion, a lot of anger, a lot of memes. A lot of memes, by the way, which could be improved. Okay, but that's not the point. The point is that clearly even the words red flag law just emotionally triggered a lot of people. Made you guys really mad at me. And it seemed that no amount of explanation was able to quell your fears or convince you otherwise, and convince you that somehow the president and I had not betrayed you. That is not true, of course, and it's sad that many of you think that. It really is. But I did have some good conversations, some good private conversations with a lot of you, and this is what I found out. Clearly, when we say red flag laws, you guys stop listening. You can't hear what we're suggesting, because understandably, you automatically assume that we are just agreeing with the left's version of that law, and we all know that the left's version would not be good. It would not protect due process. But as it turns out, that isn't what we're talking about at all. At its heart, what we're talking about is the ability to confiscate weapons when there is clear evidence that violence is about to be committed. It's that simple, and this isn't that controversial. What is controversial is how that due process is protected, and I think that's where a lot of these concerns are. Making sure that due process could not be abused is at the heart of any conservative solution to the supposed red flag laws and our version of what those would look like. I have laid out specific safeguards that would have to be in place for us to support any type of red flag law. Okay, among them would be clear and convincing evidence, punishment for false accusations, right to attorney and cross-examination, and limited standing so that not just anybody can accuse you. For instance, not just a neighbor, not just an ex. It has to be somebody with standing, maybe a family member, or maybe only police officers. We've got a great study by Cato Institute that lays this out exactly. Here's the thing. I understand your fears about bad red flag laws. Red flag law is a general concept. There can be good ones and there can be bad ones. You should be against the bad ones, as I am. The whole purpose of what the president did and what I am doing and trying to start a conversation about this is so that we take control of the narrative and propose solutions that actually do protect due process rights and ensure that we aren't on the sidelines when Democrats are proposing blatantly unconstitutional laws.
You literally can't do that.
Not protect due process. Last thing is this. No one is saying this is definitely the solution. It's a conversation. I haven't come out in support of any particular bill or state law. It's a conversation that conservatives have actually been having for a very long time. It's not new at all. And it definitely does not deserve the emotional reaction it has gotten. We are better than that. Let's be better than that.
All right, so here's my opinions on this. I think that it was foolish of them to use the phrase red flag laws when that the laws they're actually suggesting are very different from the established definition of a red flag law because the Democrats have controlled the narrative because it's been Democrat states that have passed these laws, right? They've set the standard for what it is. So if you want to control the narrative, I think what you should have done is not use their language for the laws that already exist.
No, he wants to do the same thing. He's just trying to repackage it. I don't care if they want to change the name. This is exactly what red laws are. Hey guys, I'm all about due process, but we're going to go ahead and remove it for who we think. Now, we're not going to worry about what your neighbors say or what your sister says. We're going to rely on the government, which has been 100% very just excellent at deciding who should and should not be able to have things. And so the government will decide if you can have it or not and remove your ability to have due process. So it's not red laws. We just want to remove all your rights like the Democrats.
And because these red flag laws, they rely on saying, oh well, we're only going to use them on bad people, right? Obviously bad people, like we should take their guns away because they'll do bad things with them. And well, well, we're the government, so we're pretty good at just arbitrating who the good and bad people are. So good luck, everybody.
Yeah, I used to like him. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. That is just a rebranding of red flag laws, just trying to make it look like it's okay.
And another thing he said was that the standard of evidence he mentioned was clear and convincing evidence. Right now, in legal terms, that's the definition of the lowest level of evidence. So that is not a very high standard. It's not that you were proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to have committed a crime or to be about to commit a crime, which you can't do for someone pre-crimes. But it's the lowest standard of evidence is what he's talking about. So and then are we still talking about not actually having a day in court? So we're talking about someone has to provide an allegation with the lowest standard of evidence, and you don't get to face your accuser. I still agree with that. That is not due process.
Yeah, so we have processes for warrants, or even if you don't want them to come in to look at your stuff, they can come in because that's how warrants work. But there's a legal framework for that. We've got a legal framework for detaining you when you don't want to be detained. It's called being arrested, and this is somewhere between that where you're like arresting their objects and detaining their property without them really wanting. It's somewhere between it's almost like a civil asset forfeiture kind of. But what they're really talking about is some kind of hybridized legal procedure that does not exist yet. And if they want to make that a thing that exists, okay. What I did like about what he said was we should have the discussion, and maybe this isn't the right thing, but we should have the discussion. I totally agree with that, and I think what's going to end up coming out of that is that it's not the right way to do it, or if it is the right way to do it, you're going to have to come up with a new legal apparatus. You'll have, the police will be able to issue warrants, they'll be able to arrest people, and they'll be able to red flag people, but it'll be a defined legal procedure. And it doesn't exist yet, and they would need to make that. But to pretend that it's hidden somewhere in the penumbra of the Fourth Amendment, or it's just something that we should do because it's the right thing to do, and we need to do something, like that's not how the legal system works.
Well, they're going to have to repeal the Fifth Amendment first thing, is they're going to have to do. Because this is
don't put it past them.
This is ridiculous.
Don't challenge
this is ridiculous, man. I mean, the United States, if they tried to do anything like that, should get sued into oblivion.
They would.
And should just lose as much as you can lose. Just be honest. He is such a liar right now. I thought more of him than that.
I think
I was critically disappointed, and I lost a lot of respect for Representative Solid Snake.
Yeah.
I do not
here's
doubt.
The thing. I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say we have an option, especially in the United States. We can have rights, or we can at least have the appearance of being safer. Due process does make it a more dangerous state.
Yep.
But I would counter that the positives of that freedom outweigh the negatives.
Yep.
But if you don't think that allowing due process to everyone is worth the dangers that come with it, then just say it. Don't be a liar. This is ridiculous.
So the only thing that I've liked that's come out of this conversation, not the red flag laws, but he mentioned in another longer interview that as part of the red flag laws, that it would be made so that different governmental agencies that are due with criminal justice and such would be able to communicate with each other better. So if someone were to be have made a threat online to the point of it actually being a crime. Someone's making threats of violence, which is a crime, right? It wouldn't just be in the books of, say, the local police, but like the FBI would be aware of it, right? I don't know why if the local police are looking for someone who's making credible threats of violence, why the FBI wouldn't be aware of it. Well,
and here's the thing too: is it's well known. It's not even conspiracy theory at this point. It's well known and documented. If it's not our intelligence agencies violating due process and spying on us digitally, they're using the Five Eyes Alliance to outsource it to one of the other countries to spy on us all. And they're already violating so many rights doing that. And the least they could do is see some of the stuff. Yeah, the least that they could do is see some of the stuff coming and be like, oh wow, you had all this stuff on social media. It's like, Well, why are you snooping on everybody anyways? But you're not giving us the benefit. Again, the idea is, is, well, we don't want to sell our freedom for safety, but the freedom's already been stolen, but we didn't even get the safety in return.
We
didn't even get the benefit from it.
I'm not even talking about like spying on social media. Like people have made. I hate hearing this story over and over again. Someone in that person's life, in that shooter's life, reported them to the local police, and the local police were aware of it, but it just stopped there. And there are multiple reports to the FBI, multiple reports to the police, and nothing happened of it. Well, why weren't they communicating? Why didn't they all know that, there's actually been this many more reports if you combine them between both the police and the FBI? If someone's making credible threats, why aren't we, communicating and actually, investigating that rather than, why are we talking about red flag laws that take away due process? Well, there's people committing actual crimes, making a credible threat is a crime. Why are we not investigating those and preventing those shootings? Am I making sense?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going with is, they've got. We have agencies investigating this stuff, or theoretically monitoring this with big dragnet surveillance, but they're not actually using that data to disseminate it out to local law enforcement to do anything about it. And then when local law enforcement does get information about it, they don't have a good network for reacting to it very well.
Yeah.
One of the other things I think the reason why you guys keep saying that you're disappointed in Dan Crenshaw, and I really do think. For all of his history, I think he does have the best intentions in mind. I just think he's very mistaken. And so I think when he's saying, this is only going to be used on the bad people, I really do think that he means that, and he hopes that. And I think through discussion, he's going to realize that he's wrong on that. But the problem with this is not when it gets used on the bad people, right? The problem is, what's the worst way that this law could be used against law-abiding citizens? And that the ways that could happen are endless. I don't need to go through all the scenarios of Trump voters are crazy and that sort of stuff. But what's the unintended consequence of any of these laws? And the unintended consequences of them could be pretty severe for otherwise law-abiding Americans, and that's just not acceptable. And then after that is this gets the foot in the door. Okay, we're gonna, the Fifth Amendment's, it's good for this, but we're gonna put a little wedge in it with these red flag laws, and that just starts the crack.
We have two more stories on laws in today on our docket that were laws that were passed with good intentions that end up being used in the wrong way. Right?
Well, that's the thing. Even if we took Crenshaw at his word, and I don't know that I do anymore because that was incredibly deceptive. He was clearly lying in that. But even if we took him at his word, and this is only going to do for the bad guys, even though that's vague as hell, what happens in 100 years? What happens in 100 years when they decide that how did he put it? The most dangerous criminals or only clear and present danger is based on someone's ancestry.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So I mean, Trump, I'm not worried about. Trump was doing this in February of 2018. We have him on video saying that he doesn't like due process. So the fact that he's with that doesn't surprise me. But people like Crenshaw and the GOP, it's just ridiculous, man. Let's just at least be honest with who we are.
It is very hard to believe he's that naive.
Yeah.
And this does again fail to address the overarching issue here. What law does anything about the illegal guns? Why are we still concerned with the legal guns? That's not where half of the deaths come from here.
And it goes back to what you were saying beforehand. Every new law is just used to build upon a new law, right? So when you look at originally when the Constitution was drafted and came out and everything, people were actually allowed to have, when you look at the letters between Franklin and such, military equipment. You would have sailing boats that were just doing cargo and stuff, not a part of the U.S. military, with military grade cannons.
The most advanced weapon at the time.
Yeah, and so if you look at today, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just going off of what you said beforehand. When you look at today how restricted guns are, but back then when they first had it, you could buy the best military equipment of the day, right? So every
Well-
law builds upon the
I
next.
think I made this
And
argument
so-
last show.
Maybe that's where
Yeah.
it comes from.
Yeah, it's an argument that kind of keeps coming up in the Second Amendment discussions. But yeah, I think that's the scariest part is what is this the cornerstone for? What's the laws that are going to be built on top of this? You see how many different ways they can interpret and stretch and rip apart that Constitution and the Supreme Court. What do they do with the other laws? Well, those are just completely, might as well just be blank slates for that.
Yeah.
And so I think between the already awful, horrific interpretations of the Constitution the most recent Supreme Courts have had, in combination with this, I think this could really be the start of total gun banning. What's to say, in a couple of years, well, even wanting a gun, well, that's kind of weird. That's a red flag. What do you even want a gun for? And then the red flag is just you wanting a gun.
Hey, so the final final comment on this before we move on. I'm gonna take it real quick. So if sorry, I got a super chat from Slowpoke Garcia. It's an Raging Golden Eagle puts it. Both are different sides of the same turd. That basically both Dems and Republicans just want to control the populace and nothing more. So my thoughts on this is, what they think when they pass a law like this, it means, we're just going to take guns away from people who might be violent, might commit a crime. But what they actually are doing is saying they're going to use police with guns to go to someone's house under threat of death to steal their property. And if they refuse, they could kill them or put them in jail for a very long time. And I don't think they consider that when you are making something illegal, it is always an act of force. Right?
Yep.
So, an act of violence. And and this speaks to someone who has not committed a crime. You may end up killing someone who has committed no crime. And that is the likely outcome of such laws. So, that said, we got to get back on to our next story.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm pretty sure
We're
there
all
have
slow
been
tonight.
outcomes like that.
All right.
They do have red
Next.
flags, but yes.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do a whole 2-3 hours on that topic,
Yes,
but
we could.
alas, we cannot. The next story, this one's a doozy. Alex Jones was right again. While reality is sometimes stranger than fiction, it's rarely stranger than Alex Jones, whose track record on insane conspiracy theories is legendary. I don't know if it's just that broken clocks are right twice a day, or maybe he really does have those demonic elves whispering all this stuff in his ear, but sometimes he is right.
That's scary, isn't it? It's time. This time, it's not gay frogs, but it's hybrid monkey people. There's no word on if they'll be turned gay or not, but at this point, I'd say it's a strong possibility. What we do know is that they are Chinese, or were at least grown in a Chinese lab, as China is basically the only developed country with no ethical restrictions on human hybridization. Oh my God. Hybridization. I did say it before you corrected me. Hybridization. Shocker. Shocker. I can't pronounce a word. Furthering the conspiracy.
Tyra's a hybrid monkey person.
Don't tell them that. They can't know. Furthering the conspiratorial intrigue, the tinfoil hat sales is the fact that the Catholic University has been collaborating on the Hybrid Monkey People project.
I must have missed that day in Sunday school. I think it was it's the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not create hybrid monkey people.
So they have a Catholic university that is collaborating with them. I thought Catholics were against the whole human-animal hybrid thing.
I apparently not. Anyways, the monkey person was only allowed to develop for 14 days, which is the amount of time specified by international ethics guidelines that strongly suggest that further development past 14 days of hybrid embryos be stopped.
But abortion's okay. But abortion's okay.
Yes, of course. Of primary concern is allowing the hybrid to develop to the point where it may develop a human-level consciousness. The guideline doesn't specifically state that the limit is meant to prevent a rise of the planet of the monkey people, but I think we can all read between the lines on that one.
Oh, in all seriousness.
This is such a non-surprise that China would be behind it. I mean, they don't even care about full-blooded humans.
China and the Catholics are creating the planet of the monkey people.
The Catholics, that was a bit of a surprise.
I know, right?
I'm thinking they might not be taking the faith of that seriously, or else, the Pope really wants a few extra kidneys.
Maybe. So in all seriousness, this line of research is aimed at creating livestock capable of growing human transplantable organs and could be a breakthrough healthcare technology within our lifetime. I guess we're totally morally okay with growing things with extra arms, legs, ears, eyes, whatever, and then ripping it out of them and letting them die. Totally morally okay with that, apparently.
Yeah, I just want to live.
Be that as it may, can you imagine walking around with monkey parts inside you? Huh. Be that as it may.
I think they're putting the human parts in you and leaving the monkey parts.
Yeah, I mean it's a hybrid. It's hybrid. So I mean they're not just grabbing a monkey off the street. That I don't know that'd be on streets, but assuming they are, they grab them off the street and like take a kidney. It's not like the underground or anything. They can't build the they can't do just the organs or whatever. They actually have to create the monkey.
Well, I think that the hybridization process is kind of the start of, how do we get this human organ to grow in some kind of biological substrate? And it's a lot easier to use a existing biological substrate, like i.e. an actual species that we know works. And I think at some point they'd be able to transition to a death, like something where it's just grown in a tank, where you're just growing livers and hearts and tanks and stuff like that. But I think the stepping stone to that is that you've got to figure out what's the absolute minimum necessary structure around that. And so that's why they're using these, ready-built pigs and monkeys, I guess, to do that.
I think they already have the technology to take stem cells and grow an ear by itself, right? But I think they want a body that can sustain the actual organ. That's
3D printing for organs, which they can do that. They can do that with tissues, but it's a lot harder to do. And the ear is more of a tissue. It's a lot harder to do that with the full functioning organs. But anyways, but be that as it may, that this could be a breakthrough medical technology. That's still weird, and it raises a lot of ethical questions about what it means to be a living human, and what the ramifications of blurring that line can mean for the future of genetic engineering. While this article was intriguing, it unfortunately failed to answer that single burning question that has kept me sleepless every night since I read it. And that question is, was the hybrid monkey person more Native American than Elizabeth Warren was? Sadly, the world may never know, but I think we can guess what the answer is.
Yes,
odds are high.
Yes, it was.
Are high. So
statistically,
here's the. I don't know. It just depends on how they do it. If they have to, for whatever reason, have some kind of husk, and they just make a vague monkey-like thing that just has 600 livers inside of it. I don't know that I don't know that's necessarily bad, but if they have to have something that has consciousness, then I think we have some issues.
I don't think such a creature with a bunch of livers in it would survive. It still has to be a functioning body, right?
I mean, to be fair, we've never put 600 livers into something, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the line of the path of research for these experiments is, can we make human organs in something that's not a human first? And the stepping stone to that is to build it inside something that already is a viable life form. And then after that, the next stepping stone might be, can we make it in a tank style life form? Can we figure out what the minimum necessary other stuff is that we need to grow a liver, and we can put that into a tank? Well, but it's a lot easier to do that with a monkey.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There's genes that drive the development of parts of your brain, right? If you were to just most of our brain's not necessary for the functioning of the body. If you wanted something that was just dumb and was a organ host, you could just not just. It's not easy, but if they were able to find out how to just remove the growth of the brain, most of the brain, just the basic functions.
I mean, look at Beto O'Rourke. I mean, he looks like he's got a full brain up on stage there usually. I mean, not like a good one, but
it's improving. He does.
Appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe he has more livers inside of him. We don't know.
Yeah, he's doing pretty well with 4 livers and no brain.
Yeah.
4 livers.
What they haven't told you is there actually was a study or a patient before this, another hybrid, and that first hybrid was him. He's the first monkey-human hybrid with 0 brain.
Well, that's funny because I remember the previous article of this linked to was that the first hybrid experiment was pig. So are you telling me that Beto O'Rourke is a pig man?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Oh my God. It all makes sense.
You heard it here, folks.
This is an authorized statement by Direwolf Media.
Just slightly tweaked subject beta.
Aha, I got you. The beta test is Beto O'Rourke.
Beta O'Rourke.
Beta.
Wink.
Okay, next story.
Yeah.
Right, for a still more lighthearted, less existentially threatening story, Florida woman's farts ignited by lightning.
Sounds
A Florida
very
woman
life-threatening.
That's something of an achievement, it seems. A Florida woman in Port Charlotte this month tried to use her toilet in her home when God himself apparently said no. Where after she plopped down her porcelain throne, a bolt of lightning came down from heaven to it delivered judgment on the Florida woman's septic tank and all the evil contained within.
The lightning bolt ignited the Florida woman's own noxious anal gases that had been built up and saved over a lifetime in the septic tank, clearly reaching a concentration of evil that no just God would allow to continue. Once ignited, the gases exploded violently, ejecting the Florida woman as if she was some sort of half-naked fart-propelled rocket. The toilet exploded into millions of ceramic shards behind her.
The explosion was so destructive that nothing was left of her toilet, nor of the septic tank. Her home was severely damaged as well. The Florida woman, who amazingly survived the attempted smiting, told the local news media that they have nothing now. We come in here and the toilet was laying on the floor. It's all pieces everywhere. Pieces everywhere.
Oh my God.
Well,
I needed that story.
I know. I thought you good choice. So, well, we should all thank Florida Woman for this life lesson, as she has taught us that we can't hide our crimes deep underground. One day, that shit may come back and bite you in the ass.
You like that edit?
Yes, I do. Real story from 6 August. Real story.
All of our Florida people stories are real. We would never make those up.
Don't have to.
Good.
Thank you, Florida. You've done us a great service.
Okay. All right. Well, it is that time of the show, ladies and gentlemen, and Z's. We have to say goodbye to YouTube because YouTube sucks and we don't like doing the good stuff over there. So if you are watching us on YouTube, come over to DLive or Twitch or what's the other one
Mixer.
that we're on? Mixer with with Ninja on there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So because we have some stories where we could get the channel shut down if we talk about it, just because they don't like certain words and topics. Not because we're like saying anything terrible. They just don't like certain words. So because of that, we're saying goodbye to YouTube. Please go to the link in the description that will take you to DLive and join us here. And while you're here, please give us a follow if you're liking the content. So goodbye, YouTube.